Hey, today we're taking a look at this Asama folding bike that I was trying to figure out if I could make into a cargo bike, just kind of to see if it could be done or not. The original Facebook Marketplace listing was this photo, and then with the preview app on my MacBook, I cut and pasted a bunch of stuff just to kind of make this render, just to kind of see if it made sense in my mind. What I liked about this frame is it was kind of a mixed-D style where the chain stays and seat stays kind of carried through past the seat tube. Then I just wanted to add a middle section to extend it, and add another head tube extending the front end to be kind of where the cargo would go. And then just kind of taking a look at the rest of the overall bike. What's funny is this bike was 60 Canadian dollars, whereas this amount of steel was 70 Canadian dollars, so a little bit more. And then, here I am kind of measuring and prepping the steel. I was doing this kind of in my art studio and trying to be as quiet as possible, so I was just using these pipe cutters and trying to avoid using an angle grinder at all, just seeing kind of what I could get away with. The pipe cutters work really well and cut really straight. The bigger one here is on the head tube. It's about 1 3/8 in diameter, and should work pretty well. Next, cutting the flat bar, just using a Sawzall with a metal blade on it. It's kind of just what I had. Here I'm notching the tubes for kind of the flat bar to be inserted into. Just using the Sawzall. It's really crude. The angle grinder would have been a better option, but again, just trying to use what I had. Even using Leatherman pliers because I don't think I had a regular set handy by. And just putting the flat bar in to see if it will fit. So here it is kind of mocked up, just all the pieces in place. And just also have a front and rear support to kind of help with weight, but also help with warpage. I'm using a Princess Auto PowerFist stick welder, runs on 110. I like this because I don't need any consumable gases. And then just doing this all on my sewing table with a welding blanket, pretty crude. I'm using 1/16 electrodes. These are really good for sheet metal and thin metal, and then kind of did the job okay, I guess. So here I am tacking up the first pieces, just the flat bar to the smaller size 3/4 tubing. The head tube is kind of in place just to help with heat warpage, I guess, make sure that it will fit after the fact. Stuff won't move around, kind of just the gauge, I guess. Again, stick welding is really not recommended for bike projects or bicycles. It's really meant for like farm equipment and heavy industrial stuff. If you're interested in it, there's a million videos you can check out. But TIG or brazing would have been a way better option, but I'm just kind of using what I had. One okay weld, another not so great one. Just kind of more of the same. I have started flipping the pieces like this just to get a better angle on the work. Kind of put the groove at a flat position, which is helpful. And then I'm just kind of cleaning up the welds with a chipping hammer, getting the slag off, and then kind of scraping it out with a wire brush just to see what actually held. Here we have all the pieces clamped together for welding the head tube and the braces. There was a lot of warpage with this, so having even more clamps would have helped and having it pinned to the table, but Again, just kind of using what I had. Lots of heat went into the bigger size welds, especially with these small electrodes, but did the job okay, I guess. And yeah, just kind of keeping it under the vent, trying to suck up any of the fumes, kind of cool it down a bit. Next, I'm drilling out the rivets or the pivot points on the bike. This took kind of forever, but eventually made it through all of them. Drilling through, these ones were a bit trickier because the bottom of the bike was in the way, but eventually got through. Here it is, kind of just loosely clamped together with the welded piece in place, just to see how it's coming along. Filmed myself just kind of sitting on it to see how much flex there would be with the C-clamps in place. It didn't help that the tires weren't fully inflated, so I couldn't really tell, but it didn't look too terrible, so I felt all right about it. Next, started working on the steering mechanism, cutting legs off this donor fork that I got from the co-op. Unfortunately, it was chrome plated, so I was too lazy to grind the plating off of it, so it would end up getting bolted through. Here I am filing down the top a bit so I can drill a hole through it and then into the flat bar that it is clamped to. I had to use this pretty wild bit extender to kind of get a straight drill past the 9-inch steer tube. And yeah, got my mark so I could just drill it normally afterwards. Yeah, that's kind of what it looked like with the first bolt in place. Then I could go do the same with the second. Here I am just using a reamer just to make the holes a bit easier for getting the 5/16 bolts through. And then doing the same thing on the flat bar just to kind of make the holes a bit easier to work with. I forgot to film a bunch of this, but I put a tab on the front fork blade for the steer, and I did all the bends on this 1/2-inch tubing for the steering rod, just kind of getting the length in place before I cut it, and then I welded some more 5/16 nuts on the end for the bolts to kind of receive into. All that off camera, just kind of mocking it up to make sure that it will work. And yeah, so far so good. Moving on to my back porch, kind of like Gary's projects, I wanted to paint all the pieces in my backyard for fumes and such, so just kind of mocked it up just to see what it would look like before I painted everything. Here it is in the paint booth after I painted everything. And then, yeah, basically kind of a full assembly. Everything's kind of held together with 5/16 bolts, and then I would use 2 nuts on the bottom and then tighten them into one another to hopefully help prevent anything from falling off. The one thing about this project I didn't realize is I'd be working on my knees a lot because it's so low to the ground, and it's so long it's kind of hard to have on a table. I wasn't really anticipating that, but then yeah, everything does together with a 13 mil wrench, which was really handy. So this steering mast that I'm taking out is 1 inch, and then I didn't realize it, but the shim in there is a 1/16 on either side, so it makes the interior diameter 1 1/8, which is the kind of modern standard for steer tubes. So I just found a piece of 1 1/8 tubing and put some regular handlebars and a regular stem on it, and wanted to try that out instead. The pedals had this neat device on it so they could easily be taken off for folding purposes. They just go where the pedal wrench normally would, but the pedals were kind of plastic and chewed up, so I just wanted to replace them with something I actually liked. Had these neat Suntour bear traps kicking around, and yeah, weight wasn't an issue on this bike, so figured I might as well use them. And then, of course, having to tighten it up with a proper wrench after now. I swapped out the old side pull brakes for these dual pivots, and then added a flexible V-brake noodle to the cable housing, just to add some flexibility to the whole thing. This is what it looks like, kind of folded, like a brochure fold, I guess. It's truthfully a big pain to do, and I really like making sure all the bolts are secure and tight, so it's probably not something I'm going to do that much. Just riding up and down the alley, seeing how it goes. Feels really weird, but it's pretty fun. I threw a basket on the front for now. I'd love to build a proper rack for it at some point, but yeah, that's it for now. Thanks for watching.